Hello and welcome to my porch. My name is Roy. I am a home cook and amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel typically sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today I'm out on the porch on a very breezy, cool day. That's why I've got my sweatshirt on. It's a little nippy out here today, but I like it. Very cozy. This is the kind of weather that I love. But you'll be hearing a lot of wind through the leaves, I believe, while I'm going on. This is our tail end little bit of, I guess, what we're getting from the hurricane. This is about, we got rain yesterday and then we've got some wind today. That's about it. But of course, we're on the porch for No Tag Tuesday. And this week, the questions are coming from yours truly. I came up with these questions, and because it's October, and I wouldn't be able to do any Halloween questions because I'm getting the beginning of the month, I decided that I was going to do a Halloween-ish theme, but not really Halloween questions. I'm sure we'll get Halloween questions later in the month. However, we were going to go back to every week starting this week, but then there's been discussion about sticking with every other week, and people seem to be siding with that, so I don't know if there was actually a consensus yet. It seemed like people were willing to stick with every other week, but I don't know how it's going to play out. So if we do every other week, maybe I'll come up with something else to do on the Tuesdays that we're not doing a tag. I don't know. I'll think of something if I can manage to come up with anything. But anyways, as I said, these questions came from me, and it is my trick or treat No Tag Tuesday. Now, I'm giving everyone a list of 10 items, plus there's a bonus, and then there is a bonus that is just for Jimmy over at Life with Sandy. But these are just items, and you have to tell whether they are a trick, something negative, or a treat, something positive. So let us get on with the questions. Number 1, costume parties where costumes are required. This isn't a Halloween party where if you want to come in costume, you can. If you don't worry about it. This is they are requiring costumes. Now me, I'm all for it. Love getting dressed up. That's why Halloween's my favorite holiday. I love costumes. I would always get dressed up before my myopathy and neuropathy made makeup application a little dangerous. But I love costume parties, so I would definitely be, that's a treat. Paul is not a costume person, so costume parties that are required, he would probably pass on that. It would be a trick for him. Number 2, novelty mailboxes. You know, the ones that are shaped like a fish or a truck or a house, etc. Paul and I kind of agreed on this, that it depends, because there are some tacky ones out there. I mean, the ones that look like a fish just creep me out because the mouth is open. That's where the mail slot box opens. No, thank you. That's just, I mean, I'm not a seafood person to begin with, but it's just kind of creepy. But Paul was saying if it was like a really nicely decorated house looking one, and I said maybe even it looks like the actual house, something like that, maybe. But overall, personally, I kind of think they're a trick. It's like, just leave it a mailbox. I mean, it's got to be really something else to be much of a treat in my book. Number 3, someone trying to cheer you up. Now, when I came up with this question, I had one thing in mind, because if I get in a bad mood, which is seldom, but it does happen, I would get people being like, oh, come on, cheer up, smile, it's okay. And they're not used to seeing me in a bad mood, so they're just trying to get me back into place. And I understand that, but all that does for me is make it worse. I'm entitled to my feelings. Don't tell me to change. Don't tell me to get over it. I'm entitled to my feelings. So in that instance, I would say it's a trick, because I don't want someone trying to cheer me up if I'm in a bad mood, if I'm angry. But Paul said, what if it's someone who is sad? Someone who's depressed or etc. In that case, I'm all for it. In that case, it's a treat. I do understand, like Paul said, it is great for people to know that they are not alone, that they're supported in that instance. Honestly, that didn't even occur to me when I came up with this question. So I'm glad Paul and I went over these questions. Because I was just thinking of those times when I was in a bad mood and someone would try to cheer me up, and it would just piss me off even more. So it's a trick in that instance, but it's a treat if you're sad. Number 4, the book version of a movie. Not a book that was made into a movie, but a book that was written from the movie. This used to happen a lot in like the 90s, I think, early 2000s, even in the 70s, I believe I remember seeing them, 80s. I'm not sure if you see it that much anymore. A movie was coming out, they would write a companion book to go along with it to try to get more money, get people to buy that book. I would fall into the trap, but they are a trick, because they were never as good as the movie. They were kind of rushed out there. They would sometimes throw things in that didn't make sense. So those are a trick. Honestly, sometimes a movie made from a book is also a trick, because sometimes they just don't do it justice. And as a reader, nothing more annoying than going to a movie expecting something. My most recent disappointment was The Dark Tower, which I really had high hopes for. I love that series from Stephen King. Very disappointing that it was so shoddily made quickly. They were going over it. I mean, they've been planning this movie for years. Didn't look like it. It looked like something they rushed through. But either way, the book version of a movie is a trick. Number 5, surprise parties. Paul and I are in agreement that if they are for us, they are a trick. Neither of us wants a surprise party. And I do have a story. Of course, I have a story. I wouldn't be rambling on as usual if I didn't have a story. Years ago, when I was living in New York, my boyfriend at the time, we had gone out to a club, and I was with some friends of mine. We were all hanging out. I went to use the bathroom, and I came back, and I saw my boyfriend Jason talking to my friend, and they seemed to be like really like chatty. And once I showed up, they were kind of like shifted and like quiet, and I knew something was up. So me, being the jealous fool that I was at the time, demanded, once my boyfriend had left, that my friend David tell me what they were talking about. He's like, nothing, it wasn't anything, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, is there something going on? Is there? So in order to calm my fears and shut me up, he had to tell me that Jason was planning a surprise birthday party for me. That was not what I expected to hear. So then I had to pretend I didn't know anything about the surprise party, because otherwise I'd have to say, listen, I was a jealous jerk, demanded from David that he tell me what was going on, yada yada. So I think I did a great job of pretending I didn't know what was going on. And Jason, if you are watching this, I'm sorry. But I was a jealous fool at the time. I was young-ish. Yeah, so I foiled my own surprise party. But overall, I think they're a trick, personally. But we did a surprise party for Paul's aunt's 80th birthday, and that was one thing. We were like planning it. It was like a surprise at a restaurant. And then we'd also, for my mother's 70th, had done a surprise party where we contacted all of her old friends and got people there. So in that regard, it was a treat. So I guess basically what I'm saying is, if it's for someone else, it's a treat. If it's for me or Paul, it's a trick. Number 6, getting healthier snacks in your bag on Halloween. Honestly, it would depend what the snacks were and how many we got. I mean, you're going out on Halloween looking for candy. You'd get an occasional apple, occasional bag of raisins, etc. But if that was pretty much all you were getting from house to house, big trick. But I don't mind occasion. I wouldn't want raisins. I'm not a fan of raisins, so that would be a trick. But overall, I didn't mind a couple of them in there. Paul's not a fan of apples, so he wouldn't like the apples portion. But generally, I think it's a treat if it's not overdone. If not everyone in the neighborhood is doing it, then it's a treat. But if that's all you're getting and you're out on Halloween as a kid looking for candy, it's a trick. Actually, I'm going to have to just go with trick, because kids aren't looking, they can eat healthy any time of the year. They're going out trick-or-treating for that good candy. So yeah, I'm going to go with a trick, even though I don't mind an apple or whatever in my bag. But overall, it's a trick. Give me the damn candy. Number 7, when someone makes a donation in your name as your gift. Personally, I would be fine with that. Personally, I don't need any presents. Half the time I get things and don't end up using them, or I have to return them, or whatever. I don't want people buying me gifts. But doing a donation in my name as a gift is fine with me. That is a treat, so long as it is a cause that I agree with. As Paul was saying, if someone decided they were going to go for donating something that was against my thoughts or ideals, that would be a trick. But overall, I think it'd be a treat. Number 8 is fruitcake. Now, I know this isn't Christmas, but I was thinking if there's one thing that is kind of divisive, it's fruitcake. You see it every year, but no one seems to really like it. And I am one of those people. Paul and I both think it's a trick. I did make one year. Alton Brown from Good Eats had one, and I made it. And a few people really liked it. But it was still nothing like, wow, this is so good. It was still eh. So I'm going to go with fruitcake being a trick. Number 9, paper napkins at a fancy restaurant. Now this one came from Paul. And it's because we have gone to restaurants where they seem fancy overall, but then you look and you got a paper napkin. We don't mind the ones that are paper, but they look like cloth. You know, they're much more durable. But just going with paper napkins, if you're a fancier restaurant, no, that is a trick. You either pay up for the more expensive paper napkins that seem like cloth, or you pay for the cleaning of the napkins. Don't give me this stuff that I would get at McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. So paper napkins, if they're the basic ones, are a trick. If they're cloth-ish, then less of a trick. But still, if you're a fancy restaurant, get the cloth out. And number 10, spicy food. Now for Paul, this would be a trick, except he said if it's just like a spice, something that's not going to knock his taste buds out, then he's fine with it. But I think he's thinking of more spiced foods than spicy. He does not like spicy foods. For me, I love spicy foods. I have stuff at the table that I can add to my food whenever I get something and want a little spice. So for me, spicy food is a treat. And for Paul, spicy food is generally a trick. And there is a bonus question for cutoff shorts. I don't know if people still do this anymore. I would assume they do. They must, right? Where you'd have an old pair of jeans or some old sweatpants and you'd cut them off into shorts, like say the legs had gotten torn, the knees were torn, what have you. I think they're a treat, especially if they are on a nice body. Overall, I don't have a problem with them. I don't mind it. I mean, I generally just buy shorts as shorts, so I don't really have pants that I would cut up or even sweatpants. But I don't see anything wrong with them, so I will say that they are a treat. But that wraps up these questions, except there is a bonus for Jimmy. So go check out Life with Sandy, as well as all of the other channels that are doing this tag. They are listed below in the description box. I will also list all of the questions down there. I'd love to know what your tricks and treats are, so let me know down in the comments. Also down in the description box, you will find links to my recipe blog if you're looking for any of my recipes, my Amazon storefront. If anything I've used is of interest, it may be there. My Fetch rewards, my Built Bar rewards, Instagram, and 2 Facebook groups. So go check out the description box for all sorts of information. And if you wouldn't mind doing the usual, like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. We do have another collab from Joan coming up this month. It's somewhere in the middle of the month. I think it's the 18th. I'm not positive. I will double check that. It's a Sunday. I know that. But this time it's going to be for Croctober. And it's going to be obviously crock pot meals, and I am going to be doing an Indian dish, so come back for that and hit that notification bell so you're alerted when that comes out. But I am going to go inside and warm up. It is chilly like crazy out here. So until next time, bye.